Yeah.
And we're back. This is episode 416 of the Colombia Calling podcast. I'm Richard McColl here in Bogota, Colombia, and I've got a proper celebrity musician. Well, it's as we say in Colombia, de lujo. My. Let's start again. I just stopped. Hang on a second. I will cut. One, two, three. And we're back. This is Colombia Calling. I'm Richard McColl here in Bogota, Colombia, 2,600 meters closer to the stars. And this week on episode 416, we have a guest who is de lujo. Simón Mejía of Bomba Estereo is here with us. Thank you, Simón. I don't think you need any introduction to any of my listeners. This is an amazing opportunity, not only for me, but obviously for them.
Hi, hello, Richard. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's the lujo presentation.
Not at all. For those of you who, for some reason, for some unknown reason, do not know Bomba Estereo, check them out. Obviously, they're all over Spotify and everything else, but not only Bomba Estereo. Simon is a documentary maker. I mean, you're a visual artist, you're a producer. Okay, we say founder and producer of Bomba Stereo, Grammy nominee. I mean, you've done everything, right? And the only thing it seems that's left to do is this documentary that you're doing right now, or you're going to do, called El Yuma, Sonic River, or Rio Sonoro, and it's a musical journey to the depths of the Magdalena River, the birthplace of Cumbia music. So let's get this out there. It's on Kickstarter. You're 80% funded. Obviously, we're recording this ahead of time. Everyone should sign up and throw some money at this. But tell us a little bit about it, please, Simón.
Yeah, Richard, it's a really special project, and a project that I've been putting me and the team, because we're working along with more people. No, we've been putting lots of energy, almost 5 years of developing this project and investigating and going to the river and trying to understand this really beautiful relationship between rivers and music here in Colombia. Colombia for me, Colombia is a country of water. Colombia is full of water all over. We have the paramos, the moorlands, I think it's in English, no? That are like unique ecosystems in the world. I think only two countries in the world have paramos like Colombia, that is where water is born, no? Is this very high up in the mountains. And for the Magdalena River, is what I think is the only river in the world, or one of the only rivers in the world, that is born and dies, what to say, in the same country, no? And in the case of Colombia, it's born in the south of Colombia, where the Andean mountain ridge splits in three mountain ridges here in Colombia. And in that place, the 3 or 4 most important rivers of Colombia are born. The Magdalena, Caquetá, El Cauca, and El Patía, I think. They're massive rivers. And then each river takes its own way through Colombia, through the Colombian geography that is so beautiful and so biodiverse, because here in Colombia we have tropical seas, no? We have the jungles, we have the mountains, we have the deserts, we have the valleys, no? We have this very, very biodiverse country. And that's why it's so biodiverse in music as well. No, so the Magdalena, the history tells that through the Magdalena, that is born, as I said, in the south of Colombia and dies in the Caribbean, Ocean, in the Caribbean Sea, in Barranquilla. And history tells that through the Magdalena in colonial, it was like the main path for the colonization, no? When the African slaves came with the Spanish colonization and everything, and they entered the territory through this river, no? And the good thing about that colonization was that the African slaves met with the indigenous peoples of Colombia. The indigenous peoples of Colombia had their own music. That was a ritualistic music that they played with the flutes and some really archaic drums. And they played music just to praise the natural gods, the indigenous, no?
Mm-hmm.
And they had this ritualistic music for ceremonies and everything. And when the African slaves came with their drumming traditions from Africa and met with this ritualistic music from the indigenous, local indigenous of Colombia, a new genre of music was born that was amazing, and that is the folk music that we have today in Colombia. That is the encounter between these two amazing and ancestral cultures. And from this encounter comes all the folkloric tradition, including cumbia, that is like the most famous musical genre that comes out from Colombia and spread all over Latin America and all over the world, and is the music that inspired Bomba Stereo to is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because what Bomba Stereo did was mix cumbia, that is this folk tradition and folk ancestral music, with electronic music, and that's what Bomba is about. No, so we owe everything to this folk music that was born in the river and in the encounters that this massive river made. Because back in the times, I see now the river, and I think like back in the times, the river was kind of like the internet for these people, because they communicated through the river, no, and through the rivers and everything. So it's a beautiful story. The river is, as I told before, a massive river full of ecosystems, full of culture, and also full of threats, because today, environmentally speaking, the river is really contaminated. Really, deforestation has caused a lot of negative impacts to the river and to the fish and everything that happens in terms of life in this river. And also, uh, talking about the history of Colombia, as you know, Colombia has been a conflicted country throughout its history. Since colonial times, we've been in war here in Colombia. And the river, sadly, has been a kind of uh, the, how to say, like la vertebra, the vertebrae
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
this conflict,
Mm-hmm.
no? Because as culture and life and everything travels through the river, violence has also traveled through the river. And there's an old saying here in Colombia that says, sadly, that if the Magdalena dries up someday, not so far away in the future, because with this climate change, we don't know what's going to happen. But if the Magdalena dries up, it's the biggest cemetery in Colombia,
Mm-hmm.
because it has been the deposit of all the deaths of violence since colonial times. So just imagine what this river has seen, not only in the positive, but in the negative. But I found this a very beautiful story to tell, because it's the river of life and death and music and sadness. So, no, so this is a really beautiful story, and that's what we want to tell in this film. That's the story. Yeah.
I think it's amazing. You did you've got a quote I'll read out here on the Kickstarter page, which kind of encompasses what you said. It's the Magdalena is a mirror of Colombia and its social and political contradictions. And when you talk about also it being this long fluvial cemetery, it makes me think of General Hermógenes Massa from all the way back, this horribly bloodthirsty general of Bolivar's who drowned, captives and prisoners of war down by Puerto Colombia, which is now Gamarra. I mean, that's so. Even from back then, you're talking about this, not just now or in recent years and the paramilitary deaths from Barranca Bermeja and elsewhere, Puerto Berrio, but you're talking about, as you say, all the way back to colonial times. But I wanted to pick up on something. It's the Magdalena River. Yeah, I write a lot about it, and I write about Mompos. That's one of my side projects. But the Magdalena River has become so very and correctly so, I would say, fashionable in the last couple of years as well. I mean, Wade Davis wrote his Magdalena book, River of, the Columbia, Wade Davis is, what's it called, Magdalena, and
River of Dreams.
River of Dreams. He was on the show a couple of years ago talking about this. And then we had a young writer, Jordan Salama, who wrote a book called Every Day the River Changes, about his travels along the river, and he talks about it. And then your documentary will be out in 2023 because it will be funded. And then hopefully I'll be able to publish my book on this as well. So we will flood the market with Magdalena knowledge. But I think it's so important because, as you said, it's the vertebra of Colombia. As it starts, it has its birthplace up there in San Agustin, and it ends in the Caribbean. So it crosses most of the country. And yes, I mean, you are an environmentalist. The contamination is beyond belief. This need for, I don't know, as you say, sort of inverted commas, progress has left the Magdalena River in a situation that is perilous, and the communities that live alongside and close to the Magdalena, well, they live and die by this river. I mean, it controls their lives, and so you're going to capture this. But let's talk a bit more about the music, because this is it can be a lament, obviously, as you say, the sorrow of the river, but also the alegría, the joy of this river. And as you mentioned, the good, about the only good thing from the colonization is the mixture of the Afro musical roots with the indigenous roots to make the cumbia, which is, for me, the best music that comes out of Colombia is this cumbia music, this traditional cumbia music. And you are going to be recording people and musicians in Rio Viejo, which I don't know, but I do know Botón de Leyva, obviously Mompos, Magangue, Remolino, I know where it is, and Trojas de Cataca. Where is Trojas de Cataca?
Yeah. Music. Yeah. Trojas de Cataca is in La Ciénaga Grande, Santa Marta. It's
Okay.
a really small town, just very close to Venecia.
Mm-hmm. So on the stilts, the
Yeah,
houses that are on the okay.
on the stilts, and this place in the 90s, the late 90s, this Venecia this small town, they were victims of a huge massacre, paramilitary massacre, but there are also musicians there and everything. And Ciénaga Grande, as all the ciénagas, I don't know the name in English for ciénaga, swamp? No.
A wetland, let's say.
A
Swamp is,
wetland, yeah.
yeah, swamp
Swamp
is
is
quite
everything.
negative.
Yeah, it's negative. Yeah. Like a wetland, these wetlands in this area of the river that is called the Depresión Momposina, is the low part of the river that is full of these wetlands, are the lungs of the river, the wetlands. But sadly, the Siena Grande is a dying wetland as well, But going back to music and going back to all these kind of negative aspects of Colombia's history and violence and environmental degradation and everything, there's one really beautiful thing about the Colombian culture and about Colombians and Colombian music and the people who inhabit these places, that they have a so beautiful resilience, that is people that have passed through very difficult things, very violent things, and still make this music and play and sing this music. There is a really festive music. And I think that it speaks a lot about Colombia, that Colombia, we've been in war for so many years, but you come to Colombia and you see people and everything, and people at the end, they are really happy people, and they make happy music, and we like to dance and we like to party, and so that contradiction in our Colombian culture, it really intrigues me a lot. I find it really beautiful, because I think music and culture are ways for us to overcome all the difficult situation that we have lived throughout history, and and also and also at the same time, this music, this folk music, in not only in the Magdalena River but all over Colombia, usually comes from the naturally speaking most outstanding landscapes of Colombia. No, you go to the river, and the river is really beautiful. Or you go to the Pacific coast of Colombia, that is also full of music, and it's jungle and the sea and these beautiful landscapes. You go to the Amazon jungle, where we have the indigenous music and everything, and it's the Amazon jungle. You go to Los Llanos, that is like the plains, and you have this amazing music from Los Llanos. So I think music is deeply connected with nature, and in Colombia and in Latin America in general, but especially in Colombia and maybe in Brazil, this is really strong because they're musical countries, musical countries. And that has to do with that. We have all this African influence during the colonial times. We have the indigenous that were really connected people with nature, and they use music as a way of connecting even more with nature. And then the whites that we did what we have to do, but the roots of that are really really deep and really strong and really beautiful, and you see that Colombia today is a how do you say, like como una potencia, like a really strong internationally in music, not only in mainstream music as reggaeton and whatever, but all types of music of Colombia. You see it in European and US festivals playing live. So that speaks very beautifully about the country.
Right. And I mean, on that note, I've noticed that you at Bomba Estereo will be playing in London in July at Somerset House, which is such an intimate and amazing opportunity to play, in these things. So, I mean, you tour everywhere, and the reception to Bomba Stereo music and the cumbia or the electro cumbia is huge, isn't it? I mean, it's amazing, and this taps into what you're saying about Colombia's music and the international draw.
Yeah, yeah, because I think what happened with the type of music that we make is that it connected in a very like simple but powerful way these two worlds of Latin music and international music. No, let's say electronic music is an international music,
Mm-hmm.
because before that, uh, for example, Latin music was for Anglo-speaking audiences and everything was understand as, for example, salsa music.
Mm-hmm.
That is very complex. Latin music is really complex to dance.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Too
not
much.
not
It's too much.
everyone can dance salsa.
No, I can't. So there you go.
So people thought Latin music was all about that, and it's about that, but it's also about what we make. No, that is a mixture, because we grew up listening to rock music, to electronic, to English spoken music, but we also grew up listening to cumbia and to folk and to salsa, and so our generation was like the mixing point between those two worlds into one language, that you bring this language to festivals, and people who don't talk Spanish and who don't know how to dance salsa, but they can dance to Bomba Stereo, no? Because that the electronic beat, the language is like more common for them, because it's a mixture between the two worlds.
It's a mixture, and you have been bridging, let's say, even the language, let's say the language issue. Because if I think of, some of the more famous songs from Bomba Stereo, or the more, let's say, internationally popular, Fuego. I mean, we don't need to explain that one, but it's an easy one for people to pick up, and it's almost anthemic in the way. And then you've got sort of Somos Dos, very easy again for an international Hispanoparlante, non-Spanish speaking crowd. And then Soy Yo, which almost feels like a further product of, almost like an MTV generation, because the video is so very recognized. And that would be the bridge, isn't it? That's a bridge. It's not just, let's say, a second generation Hispanic diaspora in the US. It's Europeans as well. It's Anglo-parlantes. It's Scandinavians. They're all picking up on it. But on a side note, quickly about Soy Yo. Where did you find that girl? The girl in the video who dances, who does the dorky dancing. We all do it now. We all do the dorky dancing. Where did you find her?
Yeah, no, the most funny story behind that video is that that video was directed by a Danish director
A Danish
from
director.
Denmark, from Denmark. And when we were pitching the idea, when we pitched an idea to him, we said, okay, let's do a video in Denmark that has nothing to do with the tropics, and I don't know, we want to do something really, really far away from Bomba Stereo aesthetics and everything. And the guy said, no, I want to make this video in New York with a Latin immigrant from New York. And it's a really low budget video, you know.
Really?
The video was really low budget, but it's the best video of the band ever.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy went to New York and did this casting, and he got to the girl and to the family of the girl. She's an Latin immigrant in New York, and it was a portrait of that, no, of a Latin immigrant in New York that is kind of, you kind of feel that she was bullied because she has, you know, the teeth and the glasses and everything, and people were so identified with that character. And it was in the middle of this context when the first Trump elections.
Oh,
So it became like an anthem for the Latin people of New York and LA and the Latin cities in the US that didn't want to vote for Trump. So it became like very political, the video at the same time. And it basically, it was, I don't know, it was totally unexpected what the reaction towards the video, you know.
It was
Yeah, it was
amazing.
beautiful.
It was amazing. We all, I mean, everybody knows it, and you know, my 6-year-old puts it on YouTube. That's there you go. I mean, it has again bridged generations and bridged languages and language divisions. It's amazing on that respect. And I would expect people in my family to have seen it. People in Canada, people in the UK, and everywhere else. I mean, that's the, you know, how far these things extend. But you said, I didn't know that it was a political. It became a political voice. That's very interesting.
It's very interesting, a political, and because the message behind the video is a really beautiful and simple message, you know. It's like, it doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, how you look like. It's like it's you, and what is important is that is you. It doesn't matter, no races or. And it also happened something really beautiful, that Spanish teachers in the US started using the song for their classes,
Yeah.
you know, for the Spanish classes. So they used the song, and the process, I don't know, was beautiful. And the girl become really famous after the video. I think now she's like pitched for Hollywood movies and everything.
No way. Is she going to be the equivalent in like 20 years' time as the naked baby on the Nirvana album?
Yeah.
that's what you've done to her. She's going to come back and try and sue you. But let's go back to El Yuma, the Magdalena. I mean, we know the cumbia music, and obviously everybody who listens knows my connection to Mombos. Now, you're going to do, when the movie comes out, because again, it's going to be funded, and listeners out there, you're going to throw some cash at this. You're going to do the premiere in Mombos in 2023.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea, and actually, it's one of the biggest rewards in the Kickstarter. You know, for the people who throw, I think it's 5,000 or 10,000. They go to the premiere in Mompox. No, why? Because Mompox is kind of an emblematic town in the river. You know, it was emblematic. Speaking in terms of the colonial terms for the Spanish, because it's a really colonial town, beautiful colonial architecture and everything. And it was a key a key place for colonization, no? This town, and people have to know, for example, the people that have come to Cartagena, I think Monpos is even more beautiful than Cartagena. You know, it has this energy, and it has this, and it has the river there. It's so powerful, and it has like a history around culture as well. They make this jazz festival in Monpos, no, and I don't know if they make some film things over Monpos. And now that that people can get there by car, it's becoming very trendy as well, no?
It is becoming very trendy, but we
I don't
still
know if
got.
that's for good or for bad, but yeah.
I grapple with this. You understand? You know, I am a foreigner. I have been here 15 or 16 years, and I bought the first colonial ruin in 2008, and there was nobody gambling on Montpos, nobody viewing, and it was a struggle. But we started to make things work, and French and German tourists, far more than Colombian tourists, because if you couldn't get there in your car easily, nobody wanted to come. But if European, it's an adventure, so it was great. Now we've got the bridges, and you can get there. It's the distance from major cities, still 5 hours, 6 hours from Cartagena, still 5 hours from Santa Marta, 3.5 from Valledupar. It's still a great filter on mass tourism. That still puts off people from coming. But on the other side, who am I to say that Momposinos can't benefit from an upturn in an economy, having suffered for so long? I mean, they really did suffer in isolation. And also a little bit about what you have been alluding to is we talk about the African influence and the indigenous influence. Because of the isolation, the feudal influence remained very strong in Montpos. So you've got the white upper class who still, they may not have any money, but they have a certain political control. And if opening up Montpos can permit a bit more of economic fluidity and a change in this type of society, then it's a good thing. So I find myself in sort of conflict around it. And obviously, as a business owner, I want to fill my beds, but in total, I've got the two places. In total, I've only got 17 rooms. And in Montpos, totally, I don't think there's more than 300 rooms. I think there's less than 300. So, tourism can come, it needs to be managed, but I don't think it will overwhelm the town. I think we're looking at benefits. We've got a new hospital now. This wouldn't have happened without, the growth. Part of the old high school is becoming a part of a university, so kids don't have to leave Montpos. The airport is running. These things, this helps the communities. But again, you say, we need to work alongside the environmental side of this. And too often, the environmental side is sacrificed in the name of, again, a certain progress.
Yeah, it's a difficult discussion but I think the movie, one good thing about the movie that we've been trying to develop, is in all the profundities, because we are white people making the movie, and in one moment of the development of the movie, I was in the movie, like I was like kind of discovering this music, but this music doesn't need to be discovered. This music exists, so we're in that discussion about the white point of view, and we ended up saying this movie has to be a voice for the community. It's them speaking. And when they speak, for example, that is kind of a difficult subject, they are, for example, in favor of the river today is not a navigatable river.
Navigable, yeah, it's not.
Navigable for big touristic boats or whatever, because it has so much sediments
Mhm.
and everything. And one of the projects of the government, not only for tourism, but also for getting the petroleum from Barranca to Barranquilla easily, was to drag the river,
Mm.
you know? And this in terms of environment is really, really harmful.
Mm.
But if you ask the communities, they're in favor of that because they want the tourism back and they want the boats with tourists come and have work to do around that. So sometimes I think, okay, finally they are the ones living there, no?
Mm.
Not us from the city saying, oh, the river is, you cannot drag the river. So hopefully that hasn't happened yet. The project was stopped, but I think it will be done in some point, that they will bring machines and drag all over the river, so it has more profundity and boats can go from Honda or Barranca to Barranquilla easily all over the year, no? And that in the past it used to be like that, but in the past we didn't have so much deforestation
Mm.
because all those sediments of the river have to do also because back in the top of the river there's lots of deforestation, and all that deforestation just brings the sand and all the sediments to the river and they go back to Barranquilla. So it's kind of a difficult situation,
Mm.
but I think one has to think is about the communities, no? They come first and they live there and they are the ones who know the necessities.
Yeah, the big project will be when they dredge the uh, the secondary rivers so that the more water flows into the Magdalena. That's the next project. Obviously, everything was cancelled after the Odebrecht scandal because they were going to
Yeah,
do it through their company called Navalena.
yeah,
Um, fortunately, Navalena, and the next year the tourist boat starts. It's not a big one though, and it will go from Cartagena around the Magdalena up to Magangue, and then back the other side of the island via Montbos and back up to Cartagena. It's one of those luxury boats that they have like in Europe on the Danube and things. Small, luxury, but they require the agency, the company requires the government to drag the like so confluence rivers that go into the river itself. But I mean, I only hope that the environmental concerns are brought into context because while everybody talks about the benefits of tourism, this is small tourism. This is not big tourism. This is not going to benefit everybody. This benefits, a few key sectors of it. But uh, you know, the more that we publicize, the more that people like you publicize, and with your team, and I think it's not just you, Simón Mejía, it's Simón Hernández, Liliana Andrade, Paula Alvarez. The more that you publicize this, the more that everyone will look at the river, and this is a good thing. This is important to we understand, but like those of us in the city, we have an opinion, but I guess as you say, it's the communities.
yeah. And looking, and it's crazy because I think the main idea beyond all this is that Colombia stopped looking at the river,
Mm.
no, for centuries,
Mm.
because for the indigenous cultures and everything, the river was a sacred, no, and important for life all over the territory.
Mm.
Then after the Spanish came and everything, the river was like really, they tried to not look, just use it, use it for something concrete. And then centuries pass and centuries, and today we Colombians are looking back at the river,
Mm.
and you see in Barranquilla that they built this huge malecon
Mm-hmm.
after centuries of giving the back to the river, no? So
Mm.
we're looking again at the river and seeing that is maybe it's the most important natural thing that we have in Colombia, and we all depend on the river. and we have to respect it and look at it again. And these kind of projects are ways of telling people, hey, we have to look back at the river. We have to respect the river. If the river lives, we are going to live, and the music is going to live as well.
Well, let's move on to the music, because one of your, and it's in the video on the Kickstarter page, one of your sets of musicians, one of the bands is Abundio y sus Traviesos, who are personal friends of mine. And during the pandemic, I contracted Abundio and his son, Samuelito, to teach me how to play the tambores. Because it was a way of trying to help them a little bit. And they played at my wedding all those years ago. So they're good friends of mine. And how was it recording with Abundio, Samuel, and his extended family?
It's Abundo. I think the band is called Abundo y sus Traviesos.
Yes.
No, amazing, man. I think with him and with all the musicians, there's such a beautiful thing is that they are not trained musicians. No, they don't learn to play music in any university or school, or they don't have a great access to the internet. They have it just in their veins. The music is in their veins for centuries, generations through generation. So seeing these people sing and play the drums and play the instruments is always like a learning. No, it's like a teaching for us, because they've got into music in a so organic and ancestral way, no? And they carry, and they are the carriers of this knowledge that is a oral knowledge, no? Because there are no schools for learning this. It passes orally, generation to generation. And I think that kind of process is really unique today, no? That everyone's so dependent on the internet and on social media and on media. No, this is like ancient knowledge. And when they die, they take that ancient knowledge with them, no? So it's like being in front of a master, and it's beautiful to listen to their stories and their point of view about life, and it's like transporting into another era of the world.
And in this documentary, you will be studying the dance as well, because of course the mixture. I know in the town of Menchiquejo, which is not so far from Mompos, the area is referred to as the Valle de los Indios, because there's, let's say, people of more indigenous descent, and they have a dance which is spectacular, and you don't see it very often. And once I was invited to see it, and I was exhausted watching it, because it went for like 25 minutes and it was so athletic. But again, the river was key. Will you be bringing some of these dance examples in as well?
Yeah, for sure, because especially in this area of the river, because the music changes so much, you go from one town to the other, and the music changes. We know Cumbia because it's the most outstanding, and it is the one that got international and everything, but there are like hundreds of rhythms and dances, and it depends if it's more African influence or more indigenous influence or more. But in this particular area, around Mompos and all the Depresión Momposina, this area of the river is really, really influenced by dance, and music is always presented with dancing as well. And it's part of the tradition. If you go more up north towards Barranquilla, then that changes. Then the dance changes, and it's not so important as in this area. So for sure, it's because it comes attached with the music, and it has their own histories around why the movements, and why dancing like this way, and why dressing as a woman, no? Because they have this tradition of these guys that they dressed as women, and it comes from a tradition they were trying to mock the Spaniards, no? in kind of like a rebellion, no? They dressed up as a woman, and the Spaniards came, but they were the guys, no, behind the dresses, and they killed the Spaniards, and so full of histories and stories about this that are really, really awesome.
You also still have the clowns that dress up as women, the payasos, like during the corralejas, the bullfight season. And when I take foreigners to the corraleja, they always go straight for them to kiss them and to embarrass them. It's the funniest thing to watch. These foreigners going, no, just take my pesos, take them, go away. You know, so
Yeah.
when we talk about the rhythms as well, one of for me, you know, beyond the mapale and beyond the cumbia, one of the ones, and I know it's complex, is the chande. Will you be? And I'm asking about it because my wife's grandmother was a chande singer from around Gamara. Yeah, she's no longer with us, but what do you think of chande? I mean, what do you have a favorite rhythm from these cumbia backgrounds?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not so easy to distinguish between them.
Mm,
You know, you have to be like really into folk music. But yeah, I like Chande a lot. I like another one that's called Son de Negro,
mm,
and also the tambora, the tambora music that is really common to these places around Mompox. The tambora that because, for example, in this area of the river there are no flutes. The flutes come a little bit
mm,
after, no, the gaitas and everything that are more cumbia oriented. But this tambora music is only drumming, clapping,
mm,
singing, and dancing.
mm.
It's only drums and voice. No, you don't have instrument like wind instruments or. And then with the rhythms, it's so difficult because it depends on the way they hit the drum, no, the pattern of the drum. And some are more up tempo, and some are more down tempo. The cumbia is more down tempo.
Mm-hmm.
I think the chande is really up tempo. No, it's like kind of like a high speed metal.
Yeah, metal. Okay, and so finally, when will we expect you in Montpos filming?
Well, we're in the middle of this campaign, and we were planning to go in April, but I think we're moving a little bit the dates. But we're doing one more pre-production team before going to the film
Okay.
to shoot the movie. We have to do one more pre-production trip, like doing all the journey backwards from Barranquilla, from Ciénaga to Rio Viejo, like
Mm-hmm.
backwards. And then after that, we have to come write a little bit more the script, and then we're ready to film. But
Excellent.
it depends on the funding of the project as well. That hopefully is going well, but we need more.
Well, I mean, you're looking for $20,000. You've got 80% already. You're up at 16,000 and something. The campaign ends on March the 23rd. It's all or nothing. If this does not get funded, you're not doing the documentary. So I get, I don't know, some 1,000 and something listeners a week to each podcast. If all 1,000 of you put, you know, like $2 in for this or $10, it's done. It's done. So listen, support it because this is such an important one. This is not just, you know, someone who wants to travel the world. You know, we get emails from people like this saying, "Oh, you know, it's my dream to get in a VW van, help make this possible." This is not something. This is something to. I would say you're making a time capsule of Colombian music by doing this documentary. So I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best, and I know it's going to be funded. And we will meet in Montpos because we will meet in Montpos and discuss the Yuma. So for you, those of you out there listening, look up on Kickstarter.com, and it's called Yuma Sonic River, or in Spanish, Rio Sonoro. And of course, it's a musical journey to the depths of the Magdalena River, the birthplace of Cumbia. And let me take this moment to say, Simón Mejía, thank you so much for your time and sharing some of this knowledge of music and some of the anecdotes of Bomba Estereo with us. It's been a great conversation.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, man. And thank you for supporting this. Yeah, I think more than a film, this is a like a document of how nature and music are so related in this really special territory called Colombia. Powerful territory, conflicted territory, but beautiful at the end. And this is about that, no, and about the power of rivers and about how rivers flows as music flow, no. So thank you very much for supporting and everyone listening to this. Thank you. If you guys get to support the project, we'll be very grateful.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've been talking to Simón Mejía, one of the founders of Bomba Estereo, of course, producer, music producer, visual artist, documentary maker, Grammy nominee. When are you going to win a Grammy? You've been nominated so many times.
Yeah, I know. I think the for the American Grammy, this is the third nomination,
Yeah.
and there's a saying here in Colombia that the third is the win.
Yeah, that's right. La
So,
tercera es el matado. ¿Cómo se llama? Tercero es el vencido.
pues sí, la
That's
tercera ya la vencí. So we're going for it, man. And if no, we keep on making nominations.
well, you know how you have to do it. You have to get onto and I'll stop talking after this. You have to do like a Disney movie, and then you get all the awards and an Oscar and everything else. So that's how you're going to do it.
Next step.
Yeah. So Encanto 2.
Yeah. But actually, we have one song in this Disney Sing 2 movie. There's
Oh,
one
yeah.
song there, but that happened after the Grammy, so I think
Ah.
we will not influence.
Oh no. Actually, my
Actually,
son.
the Soy Yo track is on a Disney movie.
Oh,
The
really?
Soy Yo. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well,
If
there
you
you
want to
go.
go with your kids, it's called Sing 2. It's a movie that like animals singing.
My son has said he wanted to see it, so I guess I'm obliged to go and see it. I will listen out for it when I go. Anyway, I must stop talking. Thank you so much for your time. Best of luck. I don't think you need it. It's going to get done, but everyone should fund this.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you, and say cheers to everyone.
Yes. Thank you again. This has been episode 416 of the Colombia Calling podcast. Check out the Kickstarter.com campaign. Obviously, share this show, share the Kickstarter campaign, get everyone out there to follow this. It's very important. Again, as I said, it's like this time capsule for the music around the Magdalena River. Well, I've been Richard McColl talking to Simón Mejía. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and goodbye.